Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So I have a kind of late February wrap up. Just got busy, didn't get around to it. But I do want to share with you the things that I read and what I thought about them. The first two are going to be books that I don't have physical copies of. The first one I listened to on audiobook, and that was the Assassins Apprentice by Robin Hobb. And this was my BookTube recommendation from Sam of Novels and Nonsense. And it was fantastic, and I would absolutely recommend the audiobooks for these because the narrator does great voices, and it's one of those things where it's like once you have like the voice of this character from this narrator, it's hard to think of them any other way, and he does such a fantastic job that I just absolutely enjoy listening to the audiobooks. And I've already started and I'm almost finished with the second one, but this was fantastic. If you haven't heard of Robin Hobb's Farseer trilogy, The Assassin's Apprentice follows a young assassin as he's sort of finding his place in this society and just sort of the intrigues of his life and of the Farseer royalty, and it's just so fantastic. So much rich detail and great characterization, and I am so attached to these characters, it's not even funny. I had to lose a scarf. It got too hot. The next book that I read was a book that I received on NetGalley for a review from St. Martin's Press, and that was I'll See You in Paris. This was about a girl and her mother, and it's kind of like a dual perspective story, and the girl is sort of learning. She goes with her mother to settle some estate stuff, and so while she's there she starts learning about this house and this woman who lived in this house and sort of its history, and she has this book, this sort of what connects her to this man who's helping her put the pieces together of the story. And honestly, if you're going to read this book, don't read the description, because I read the description and then when I was reading the book I was like, wait, why is this a surprise? I thought we knew that from the beginning. So there's something in the description that sort of spoils one of the surprises later on, and I feel like it's so much more exciting when it's a surprise. And I still was sort of a little bit surprised just because, or I felt like I was figuring it out, even though when I back and read the back of the book I was like, oh, maybe that's why I figured that out so easily, is that I read the description and so I already kind of knew that's what was going to happen. But anyways, it's a really fantastic story and I really enjoyed it. It had twists and turns up until the very end, and I love dual perspective stories, and this one was just fantastic. Okay, to change gears a little bit, I read People Before Profit, which is a sort of biography of Bob Moore, who is the founder of Bob's Red Mill. And I have sort of been obsessed with Bob's Red Mill ever since I interned at a television station in Beaverton, Oregon, and I got to meet him and his lovely wife and sort of understand their company and what drives them. And I found it so fascinating, and so I've bought their products since I found out about the company, and this was such an interesting picture of a man. If you know anything about Bob's Red Mill, it is a multi-million-dollar company, and their products are available around the world, and they have all kinds of products. And what's so fascinating about him is the fact that he failed as an entrepreneur so many times before he ever got to the point he was at when his business really took off. Because when his business really took off was actually after an arsonist burned down his mill when he was, I want to say he was like 59. He was in his late 50s, and an arsonist burned down his mill, and instead of giving up and just being like, my life, you know, I've got the money I need to live my life out comfortably, he decided that for his employees, the only decision to be made was to start over again. And so he did. And then he built this basically empire he has now, but then he spent so much time with his employees and with his company just making it somewhere that was a joy to work, and it shows because all of his employees have so much respect for him. He thinks that his company is successful when his employees are successful, which is such a refreshing concept. And so I really enjoyed this book, and as somebody who in the future wants to own my own business or work for a small business, I found it really, really inspiring how much he failed before he succeeded, because I think that a lot of times we think, especially now with a lot of these tech startups, that people just suddenly have success when they're 20. But the reality of life is that sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes people don't ever find their success until they're in their 50s or 60s. And so it was really, I guess, helpful and inspiring to me to read his story. So then I buddy read Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell with Patty from I Smell Books, and this one was really fun to read. I will say I don't think I loved it like everybody else loves it, so I thought it was cute and quirky, and I definitely, it made me remember my college days. And it was funny because I just kept picturing her dorm room like my college dorm room, even though when she further describes it, it's nothing like my college dorm room, but to me, it was. That's what I saw in my head. So I thought that Kath's and Ren's relationship sort of irked me a little bit, because I went to college with identical twins, and they had their own separate lives. They lived in different dorms. They had their own roommates, but there was never a point when either of them was like completely pushing the other one away. And in fact, it just would feel unnatural for them to have that sort of relationship, for one of them to go that long without talking to another one, to their sister. It just, to me, that part of it didn't feel realistic, having known the twins that I know, and so that irked me a little bit. I could have done without the fan fiction. I thought that it broke up the story, and I was really enjoying the actual story, so when the fan fiction that was like in between each chapter would come in, it felt like it just slowed the pace of the book down because it took me out of the story. So I didn't really love that, which makes me question whether I really want to read Carry On. I own it, so I probably will eventually, but I'm not really in a hurry to read it. But yeah, I do have to say that Reagan was absolutely my favorite character, and I'm pretty sure that's not what you're supposed to come away from this book thinking, but I just loved Reagan. I thought she was hilarious, and she just, every single interaction with her made me laugh hysterically, and I think maybe it's a little bit because she reminds me of my friend Carol Ann, but she was fantastic, and just, yeah, Reagan was my world in this book. And the last book that I read was Whiskey and Charlie by Annabelle Smith, and I may be doing a separate review on this, I don't know yet, but I really enjoyed this. This is not a story for people who like plot-driven stories, because this is definitely a character-driven story. It's about two brothers, one of which is in a coma. We learned that at the very beginning, that they're twins, that one of the twins is in a coma. And so it's all told from Charlie's perspective, the twin that's not in a coma. And Charlie is sort of going back and telling the story piece by piece. So it sort of starts in the middle. It starts with the accident and with the coma and at the hospital, but then Charlie goes back and starts at the beginning about their relationship, and then it sort of progresses to the point where when we get to the middle of the book, we're back in present day time, and then it goes sort of forward. So we start in the middle, go back, and then go forward, which I always think is a really fascinating way to tell a story. I've read a couple of other books that are like that, and I really enjoyed that. So I liked that aspect of the book, and I thought this was fantastic because the characters were so interesting and real and had such, I don't know, dynamic personalities. It's definitely a wonderful study in relationships and in not necessarily sibling rivalry, but in perception of your siblings and just perception of people in general. I started off the book feeling one way about the main character. Halfway through it, I felt another way, and then by the end, I felt a third way. So it was definitely something where it really made you empathize with the characters and really made you feel things about what was happening and sort of travel along with them. So I really enjoyed this, and if you are into family stories or, you know, character-driven stories, then this one would be right up your alley. Alright, so apparently I just can't do a short wrap-up video at all because I'm pretty sure that was ridiculously long. So I'll try to keep this short. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day, and I will see you next time. Bye.